I bought my first investment property when I was 14 years old. It began when I was 12 or 13 with me watching a Disney Channel movie where this girl took pictures all the time and had this super cool camera. And I said, Mom, how much would it take to buy a camera like that? She said, $300. So I went to work racking my brain, thinking of every possible way I could make money. I did chores at home for $1 a day. I worked at my dad's office filing papers. I babysat for a family friend. And then I sold these little flag pins like a brooch at my grandma's friend's cookie shop for $1 each. Now, when I had saved up $300, there was no way I was buying a camera with that money. That was so much work and the money would be gone. So my parents said if I would put $1 in the bank, they would match it. And I thought that was pretty cool. They also gave me a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when I read it, he talked about putting money, investing money, and having it return back to you every single month. That sounded pretty cool. I came to my dad and said, Dad, I have $1,000 to invest, and I'd like it to be in real estate. Now, my dad was so awesome because he didn't just laugh at me. He started asking around, what can you buy of real estate for $1,000? And it turns out you could buy an old, inoperable mobile home. Wasn't even working, non-functional. And I said, let's do it. So I bought it. And then I hired someone who could paint tar on the roof and replace the plumbing since I didn't know how to do those things. And I paid him. I took a loan from my parents for $1,000 to fix it up. And as I was fixing it up, I needed it to go quickly because when you own the mobile home, you don't also own the land. So I had to pay like $475 every month in lot rent just for the land. So luckily, it was fixed up within about 30 days. And I called the newspaper and ran an ad for a renter for this property. And I charged the amount of the land plus some extra so that I would have some profit, some cash flow. That was how it worked, right? And someone called me, and it was a woman who was on fixed income on Social Security, and she was elderly, and I thought, this is great. So I rented it to her, and lo and behold, she paid me. And I made like $125, $150 every month profit. So the first months all went to pay back my parents until I had repaid the loan of $1,000 while I got it up and running. And then instead of buying fun things with that money, or a camera, I saved the money. And it took me about 2 years of saving. But then I had $1,500. And I came to my dad again and said, Dad, help me find another property. And he did. This time it was cat infested. There was a broken window and all the neighborhood cats would be inside and it smelled horrible. But that didn't scare me away. I bought it anyway. And I hired someone to fix the plumbing again and heat wrap it and to pull out all the carpet that was covered in cat urine. And I had a project on my hands. So I spent that summer scrubbing 3-month-old moldy milk out of the fridge, painting all the walls and the ceiling with something called Kills that seals in the smell. And then I talked to my grandma and said, hey, I need some carpet for this place. And she had just replaced her carpet. So I was able to use her 20-year-old carpet pad, but I needed to find some carpet. So I went to a place downtown and I said, hey, I need this many square feet of carpet and I need your remnants, AKA cheap. So she ran the numbers for me and said, here's what it's going to cost. And I did a little bit of negotiating. I said, now I need your 16-year-old discount. And she did it. She sold me the carpet for super cheap. And I borrowed my grandpa's truck and I drove the carpet over to my mobile home. And now I needed to lay the carpet, which I had no idea to do. And I had no access to YouTube back then. So I went to the mobile home park manager and she said, actually, my daughter knows how to lay carpet. And she said, if you rent a knee knocker, my daughter will show you how to do that. So sure enough, I rented it, and she, another 16-year-old girl, and I laid the carpet in this mobile home. After all these renovations, the property was ready to rent. It was incredibly gratifying to see this eyesore, dilapidated, cat-infested property become one of the nicest properties on the street. That was incredibly rewarding for me, and it was a visual representation of how much good I was doing in the world. It was really motivating for me to continue. And so I started saving now 2 properties' income. And I was able to buy a 3rd and then a 4th property all before I left to college. That helped me fund a lot of my college and was a really good learning experience. I had now proven my ability to take something, make it better, and produce cash flow consistently. And then once my husband and I were married, we bought a property, but we bought one that rented for about $14.50 per month. And then we decided to rent a much older place for $500 a month. That property covered its own mortgage and paid us about $500 profit every single month. So it made our rent payment for us. Brilliant. Now, when I was young, I had observed how my dad was and how men were, how they had ambition and they loved making money and they were primarily providing for their families. And then I observed the women that I knew who were mostly homemaking and taking care of children. And I could see that I had ambition, a lot of it. And I started believing that I was made wrong, that I was wrong for my ambition. And when I became a mom, I really stepped into that mothering role and tried to push away the part of me that loved all of this investing and making money. And that was really painful. I started having anxiety and depression. It felt like there were bees buzzing in my head, and I even started having panic attacks. I felt really hopeless. And when the medicine didn't work, I felt even more hopeless. I had tried therapy, and there were days when I just couldn't be at home alone. Someone came and was with me so that I didn't have to be alone. Sometimes my husband would miss work, and this was a really hard time because I wasn't even able to be there for my kids as much as I wanted. And I thought, someone has to have figured this out. Someone has to have found a solution. And when I find that solution, I will devote my life to helping people who feel like me. And I found that solution. For me, that solution was life coaching. I learned how to manage my brain. I told myself and kind of integrated these parts of me that believed I couldn't be both a mother and a businesswoman. And I started to live a life that wasn't just a shell of a life, but that I actually loved, that I was really passionate about. That transition took a while, but in 2018, I started investing again. And we purchased $5.75 million of properties over the next 3 years, trading in and out, flipping, burring, developing, doing zoning changes, and it really just came to life. I loved about life coaching that when I brought my dream, I want to make $21 million a year, they poured gasoline on it. They were like, hell yeah, you can do that. I just thought that was so awesome that someone believed in my dreams as much or more than I did. Life coaching changed my investment trajectory because I changed my mindset. Where I had been believing things were too risky or not a good deal, I was now willing to take the risk. Where I believed that I couldn't be a good mom and a business owner, in fact, my worst fear was having regret for not spending 100% of my time devoted to my kids, I now believed that it was okay for me to do both. I started to believe that my ambition was actually good, that it was a lovable part of me, and that I could go back to making money. I released myself from this mental cage. I had access to all of my creativity. We were talking about how to optimize properties. We were talking about how much money the last one had made and how exciting that was. We talked about how much good we were doing in the world and how we were meeting a need for housing in the town that we were investing in. This was so gratifying. I no longer was asking, what's my purpose? I felt like, yeah, I know my purpose. And it's so much more amazing. My life was just more amazing than I could have even imagined. Life coaching works. I've seen it again and again in over 100 of my personal clients who, when they adopt this philosophy and way of thinking, reach the goals that they've been trying to reach for years. They break through the mental blocks that they have and get the results that they want. Investing isn't just for them. It's for you. It requires a willingness to learn a few things that you don't already know. And that's not how to fix toilets or roofs. It's a simple 5-step process that when you follow, you will own properties and you will have money coming in. Every morning when you wake up and your feet hit the ground, you will have already made money. And that is freedom. So reach out to me today with a DM, and I would love to help you get started.